Hey, 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 it's Rebecca, and you are listening to Resilient by Design. All right, today was a really fun episode because it totally wasn't scheduled, wasn't planned. It was literally, I was planning on having a phone call with my friend Lisa Canning, and she was so generous because I was like, I feel like our conversation is going to be really good. We should just record it for the podcast. And so I sent her like a DM on Instagram literally this morning and was like, hey, do you want to like maybe use a Zoom link? And after we've had any private conversation, we could record it for the podcast. And she, of course, said yes, was like, absolutely. Why not? Let's do it. She's so amazing. It's so fun. It's like Lisa was actually one of my early guests on the podcast. And we talk about it today in this episode, but she was actually one of my first cheerleaders when I decided to go out on my own and start offering online courses. She helped me develop and promote my first course, which was called Momentum back in 2020. It was a marketing course for interior designers. Haven't offered it this year. I might come back again, who knows? But she has been such an inspiration to me. She was a designer here in Toronto. She was actually an HGTV designer on screen. So she had her own TV show. She started on that show called Marriage Under Construction. I met Lisa when we worked on The Property Brothers together. And if you want to know a little bit more about my relationship with Lisa, then you can check out the other episode that I recorded with her. I am actually just looking it up right now. I'm just going to Google. Let's see if it happens, guys. Let's see what happens. Resilient by Design, Lisa Canning. Oh, drum roll, does it work? Oh, look at that. Episode number 16. I love Google. It is called You Get to Decide What Success Looks Like with Lisa Canning. So go check out episode 16 if you want to know a little bit more about how we know each other and her sort of experience. Today's episode is more of a deep dive on mindset. The reason I thought that we should record the conversation is that we are in a weird economic time. It's very uncertain. And I know a lot of us business owners are feeling a little bit uneasy. And so I want to give you guys some content. I want to give you some reassurance that there is a way through the downturn in this economy. And so in doing so, I'm bringing the other experts to this podcast to help all of us, especially helping me, build our confidence to feel like we can do this thing. Lisa today shares some really useful information. And it's very introspective. It's going to get you to think a little bit about your life as it pertains to money, because I think we have the potential to let fear take over and pull us back in a world that is trying to get us to pull back. And it's not that it's a conspiracy theory. I just think that there's a lot of fear mongering when it comes to economic downturn and with the scarcity mindset that is starting to really take over. And Lisa shows us that it doesn't have to be that way, and the power of our mind and how we can really look for opportunity to grow in an economy like this. So I think you guys will really enjoy this episode. I know the mindset episodes are always really popular because we all need a little brain kick in the butt, kick in the brain. I don't know. From time to time. This is a long intro. Let's just get into the episode. All right, here we go. All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business. Hey, Lisa. How's it going?
So much fun, Rebecca. Hey, I love spending time with you. This is so fun.
I know. This is amazing. You were one of the early guests on the podcast. It's so nice to have you back again.
Well, I completely forgot I was on your podcast. So that's exciting.
I know. That was a while ago. It was like at least a year ago.
My word. And look how far you've come.
I know. Look how far you've come, lady. I'm so excited to talk to you today. So for those of you who are listening, this is a totally impromptu. Lisa and I had a scheduled phone call and I was like, hey, do you have time to like hop on Zoom instead? And we can have our private call and then we'll record a podcast. And Lisa, of course, you're amazing. You're like, yeah, absolutely. No problem. I love it.
Any time spent with you is a good time. So I can't wait. This is so fun.
You are such a yes girl. And I think that's part of why you've had so much success throughout your entire illustrious career. I love it. But for those who are like, I don't know who Lisa is, can you just give us a little quick snippet into all things Lisa Canning?
I started my career on HGTV. I had the really like unusual entry point into the world of interior design where a mom at my high school saw me present in front of parents and the student body. And she was like, you need to be on TV. So she connected me with a company called Tricon Films, which at the time was, I mean, they still are producing tons of reality-based, docu-based content, including many shows that you would have seen on HGTV. And I got hired to be a designer with no experience on a show called Marriage Under Construction. That launched if I'm being really honest, a career that I didn't expect to get into. I had no idea what I was doing in broadcast television. I had no idea what I was doing in interior design. And I failed forward very quickly and eventually launched a design career in Toronto and had a whole bunch of children at the same time. And so my career morphed into life coaching because I've had 9 kids in a very short amount of time. My oldest is 13. My youngest is almost 1. And so people would be in design consults with me. I'd literally be standing in their kitchen, telling them what to do for their renovation. And they would stop me and be like, I'm sorry, we have to just press pause on this conversation about cabinets. And you need to tell me how you run your life because I don't understand how you're standing in my kitchen with so many children and you're smiling. And so I kind of like realized because that happened so often, I would be hired for design advice, but then it would end up becoming, tell me how you get out the house in the morning. Tell me how you get your kids organized. Tell me how you and your husband go on a date night. Da, 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 da. It would all end up being like life coaching. And so I turned a lot of that into my book, The Possibility Mom. And now I primarily do business and life coaching. I attract a lot of faith-based moms. Sometimes I dabble in interior design. So like when people find out my background, where I live currently in Florida, I live in Southwest Florida. When people find out my background here, they're like, oh, can you please come to my house? So I still kind of sneak in the odd.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I love it.
I live in a community where I'm a little far from like a major city. And so no designers will kind of come out here because it's just so far. So when they find out that I'm local and that I'll come over like the next day, I get kind of, but I'll tell you where I live, this is to no offense to where I live. It's a lot of beige. It is a lot of, I cannot tell you how many times I have quoted Balboa Mist.
That's so funny because you are like the girl of color. If anyone has seen Lisa on TV, you've seen her website, like anything you've done, your YouTube channel, like it's so colorful. And even right now, if you can't see Lisa because you're listening to the podcast, she's wearing the most gorgeous fuchsia frilly top that I am totally coveting, by the way. I love it. Like you are so colorful. That must pain you to have to like always pick beige.
I get, Rebecca, hey, how much it pains me. But, you know, you read the room. Like I have a lot of cute snowbirds in my community. So people who come from the north and are here for several months, you know, it's really actually the cutest. Like going, like I remember trying to recommend Hail Navy to somebody. Oh, it would be so good in this space. And they were like, like, I think I gave them like aneurysm. So yeah, basically it's a lot of beige, but that's me. And I'm just so happy to be here with all y'all.
I love your ability to summarize all those years into a very short soundbite. I have to say, I was wondering, I'm like, how is she going to do this? Because you've done so many things. You've lived in so many places. Yes, she has 9 children. Anyone who heard that for the first time is like, what? They just hit the brakes in their car. Anytime I think when the last baby that you had, I was like, Chris, Lisa's having another baby. He's like, what is that, number 7? I'm like, no, number 9. Amazing. I love it. You're such an inspiration. And I have to say, actually, hearing you say that reminded me that the whole weekly date night with your husband thing, I learned that from you. And I've been doing that now for 2 years with my husband, thanks to you. And people ask me all the time, they're like, what? You get a date night every week? Like, oh, wow, I wish I could do that. And I think to myself, oh, isn't that interesting? Like, that was probably my reaction. I thought, oh, I don't have the time for a date night. But then I realized it was just all in my mind, and I needed to just put it in my calendar, schedule the babysitter on repeat, and make it happen. So it's funny, like we're here today to talk about so many things. And one of the big things I really want to talk about with you is mindset. Especially as it pertains to money, but I think that it's interesting now that I look back in those early days of me getting to know you as a friend, you were already practicing this idea of you can control like your mind. And a lot of that is you can control your schedule. And you had that course that I did, which was Conquer Your Calendar. I still reference you inside Power of Process. By the way, I talk about you inside my course because you taught me about the setting up your ideal week and how you can plan out your calendar. And a lot of that, I think, comes down to mindset and believing that you can or you are worthy of that time for yourself.
I think especially I know you attract a lot of interior designers, a lot of entrepreneurs, and this is an area that I think gets overlooked a lot in our learning, let's say. So you might go to design school, or you might take a course like Rebecca's, or you might, whatever, like invest in training somewhere, and they'll show you the process, right? And this is no way to take away from any of these resources. Absolutely not. But here's what I learned in my own training. I would pay for all of these high level experiences. I would pay for expensive marketing courses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then I'd be like, why isn't it working? Like, how come it isn't working like they said it would? Like, I thought I was going to have a $100,000 launch. Like, how come it's not happening? What's wrong with me? What I've learned over the years is how we think about ourselves, how we think about our clients, how we think about our ability to be a designer or whatever your craft is going to have a huge impact on your results. Like, that's just reality. That's not like made up. When you think, like, just even think about it naturally. So let's say you're about to pitch an interior design project. And you've been given all the things. It's like, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. And you get it all ready and you feel really good, but then you don't hit send on the email. Who can relate to this? Who can relate to going home after a consult, writing up a great proposal, and then you don't hit send? Or maybe you sit on it and you're like this, you're like, like your fingers shaking over hitting send. Maybe you talk about it with your husband 700 times. Like, should I really price this? There's no way they can afford it. Oh, I don't know, blah, 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 blah. And you have all this drama. All of that drama exists because you have thoughts about yourself, about your abilities, or about your client, or about something else. And so I've just come to understand over the years, and I noticed this in my clients. So when I would start coaching people, whether it was design or whether it was life, I would be like, okay, just do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And there you go. And they wouldn't do it. I would be like, what is going on? There's clearly something.
Why aren't they listening to me?
And I would see some clients would listen, but then some clients wouldn't. And I began to understand really quickly that how we think produces an emotion. So if we think there's no way they're going to pay this, right? That might cause an emotion like hesitancy or fear or doubt, right? Or maybe even guilt. Maybe you feel guilty charging a certain amount. That's what causes you to not hit send. right? When you feel hesitant or when you feel fear, you might check Instagram one more time before you send the email, or maybe you go hide in your pantry and eat Doritos for 5 more minutes before you hit send. All of that unnecessary drama is a result of how you're thinking. Whereas if you think, I provide so much value, you might have an emotion of confidence or maybe magnanimity, or maybe abundance, which then might cause you to just like slam the send button and then be detached from the outcome. And this is the power of our thoughts. And this is something I wish I had learned in the beginning of my interior design career when I was charging like $49 an hour, thinking that
girl, no, you didn't.
Oh, I was in a coaching community where I became known as the $49 girl. Like they all were we're charging that again. Like, oh my word. Anyway, I became a bit of a joke, but yeah, I mean, again, I think sometimes we have to be very cognizant of where our money story, I've heard it described like that. We all, whether we like it or not, or whether we're conscious of it or not, have a story that we tell ourselves about money, whether we deserve it, whether it's like moral or right to spend money. Maybe you grew up with a lot of money, or maybe you didn't. This is all going to influence how you run a business, how you price yourself, the kinds of products that you specify for your clients. Like it's all going to impact. And I think a lot of people, especially in interior design, enter their businesses without this sort of gut check, I guess, or just awareness. Without this awareness of, oh, I'm bringing a money story in. And what's interesting is that then this also impacts the kinds of clients you attract, because then sometimes you might be communicating. Something that really fascinates me, Rebecca, is we sometimes communicate without our words, right? Obviously, right? You were an actress, right? So I this is a part of your story, PS, that like, I really want to hear more about. Like every time I'm with you, I'm like, I want to know this whole story of like your acting. I'm sure you understand. There's a way you can smile with your eyes. There's a way you can, use your body to communicate something that you're not using words to communicate. We do the same thing, especially in our marketing. Like when I see people talking to their phones on their stories or whatever it is, you can tell when a person is not that confident about their offer. Like you just can't. There's maybe a hesitancy. Maybe they're not looking directly into the camera. Maybe they're a little shifty, or they're not really smiling. And you can kind of get a sense, like people can pick up on these intangible forms of communication. And I love helping people to feel more confident from a place of true understanding of their worth, their value, but really that they have agency over how they think about themselves. I struggle with this every day, Rebecca, if I'm being really honest.
I mean, I love this because like what we didn't mention, actually, it's so interesting. All these memories are popping into my brain as you're talking, is that you helped me. Like you helped me when I launched my very first course. It was 2020. And you were already doing something online. I don't even remember how it all played out, but I think I reached out to you. I was like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this thing. And you were like, yes, I see this for you. This is amazing. And you were such I want to say cheerleader that really, it doesn't do it justice, actually, how much you really helped me. But one of the biggest helps, yes, you gave me some tactical advice, but more than anything, you reminded me that I could and that I was worthy of doing the thing that I wanted to do. And you made me feel like I wasn't an imposter, like I can charge for this thing. People will pay to learn from me. And that was very, very valuable. Like it really was so much of that mindset and getting past the way that I was holding myself back mentally. And the way that in general, we all tend to do it. I'm still working through that in so many different levels, but it's so true. It's your story. It comes from there's so many things that I've learned that I've tried to do over the years, which is like understand my own personal money story, right? And like where do these thoughts come from? They must come from somewhere. I wasn't born with these thoughts, right? So why do I feel like it's boom bust? Oh, right. I grew up in a household that was boom and bust. I'm like constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. And in some ways, possibly self-sabotaging from time to time. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's just like one little aspect of my mindset, specifically as it pertains to money. And you've really you definitely helped me as I did a big transition from doing strictly interior design to starting the coaching.
And I remember,
give you a little props for that.
I remember the transition, and I remember so clearly that you were like, nobody's going to pay me for this, or like various permutations of that word, that sentence, like nobody's going to pay for this. And now you've got this thriving program that you continue to iterate. You've got a membership that continues to bring you monthly revenue. You're expanding into so many other things, which is so exciting. And it's just, I think what I want to articulate that's so important for the entrepreneur listening is that this is the most vital part of your business. Your brain, your self-concept, and your willingness to learn and be coached. Your brain is your most valuable asset. Because again, think about it. I have some audacious goals right now, and they're scary to me. Sometimes a little too scary. And I got to kind of like take a pause and just be like, okay, you're afraid, but it's okay. You're going to be fine. Right. But just think about it. Like when you think things like, I cannot make more money, your brain just is simply going to look for more evidence of that. Oh, look how you didn't do this project, or, oh, look, this client said no, or da, da, da. But when you shift, and you can do this right now. So I actually want to invite everybody listening to this safely. Just think of a thought that is very, we call in the coaching world, sticky. Like, what is a sticky thought for you that you find is coming back again and again and again? It could be something like, there's no way I can raise my prices. There's no way anyone's going to buy that. It could be something like about what you worry about. People are going to judge you because you're going to do something different, whatever it is. Think of your sticky thought. And I like to do what's called interrogate the thought, as if that thought is on a stand and a lawyer is asking you questions. And here are a couple questions that you can ask yourself. Number one, is that really true? So for example, no one's going to pay for this. Is it really true that no one's going to pay for this? Do other people invest in similar type of products? So is it really true? Could the opposite of this be true? So like, yes, there are people who would want to pay for this. And then my favorite question, honestly, is, do I want to follow where this leads? And this is just an important one, and it's objective. Becoming objective about our thoughts is like, it's just the beginning. So do I want to follow where this leads when I think no one's going to pay for this? No one's going to buy this. I can't charge my prices. It doesn't lead me somewhere good. Whereas if you can get curious and get to this space of, how can I make more money? How can I, change my business? Even stuff audacious like, how can I make $100,000 in 30 days? They can be scary, but what's so interesting is your brain starts to at least try to solve that problem. Okay, I want to tell you a story. That's really so interesting. I am working with a weight loss coach, and she is trained by the Life Coach School, which is a really cool program. And they have a really interesting methodology for weight loss. And her particular one is not about like macros or anything like that. Like, you're not really doing blood work with her. She encourages you to do blood work elsewhere. But anyway, and she has you do your weight goal. And so I was like, okay, my weight goal is 135 pounds. And she was like, okay, so do you think it's possible to get to 135? And I was like, yep. I think I know exactly what I would do to get to 135 pounds. And she was like, great, we're dropping it lower. And I was like, what? She was like, what was the weight you were before you had 9 children? And I was like, oh my God. She was like, what was your weight when you got married? And I was like, there is no way I'm going to get to 127 pounds. Like I was 127 pounds. I was a competitive cheerleader at Ryerson. I was really like fit and skinny. And she was like, you might not get to 127, but writing that 127 is going to put your brain on an adventure. Like, let's just put your brain on an adventure to see how it would solve that problem. And even if you don't hit it, your brain has done the little homework of like, well, how could we hit 127? So you might listen to this and might be thinking this is gobbledygook. Like, what the heck? Who is this Lisa Canning person? But I like people to examine where your current thoughts lead you. And do you want to follow where they lead? And you have agency, like you have the ability to choose what you think. Thoughts are actually optional. We sometimes don't think they are. Sometimes we just think like, no, that's a fact. Like, no, it's just like, I haven't had a new client in 6 months. I'm never going to get a new client. Like you might choose to believe that is true, but guess what? It's actually not. You can actually think something very different. And this is what happens is you get, what I observe a lot of entrepreneurs to do is you get to this like breaking point in your business where you're like, this is so hard. This is not worth it. I hate that I'm calling contractors 700 times. I hate that I'm looking at these like spreadsheets and we're losing so much money. Like you get to this inflection point where you're just like, this stress isn't worth it. Mm-hmm. And people either kind of, I don't know, maybe they quit or they kind of just choose to grind it out or whatever. They choose many different things. But I think the best thing you can do when you get to an inflection point is become like relentless, so to speak, of thinking of possibility. It's like, okay, I currently run my business this way. It's habitual. I have some habits about maybe how I price or how I operate, or maybe I need to control everything in my business and I can't like give it to somebody else, whatever. I have habits currently, but there's clearly other ways that this could be done, and to just become relentless about possibility.
I mean, it's so fascinating because I feel like now more than, of course, my AC unit has kicked in, which is going to affect my sound. Sorry, guys. But we gotta heat this place, not my AC. Sorry, that was wrong. But you know, the heat exchange. I got to keep people in this building warm. This is interesting because I feel like for myself even, and the people listening, it seems like a really extra difficult time in the world to think about possibility. Like, what would you say to the person who's listening right now, who's like, yeah, that sounds really nice, but have you seen the economy and the cost of lettuce? Or I'm just saying lettuce because recently it went up like bananas. Bananas, that's another one. Did you know that it costs like $2 for one banana right now in Toronto?
Banana. Oh my gosh. I'm going to ship you a box.
$1.89 or something yesterday when Chris went to the grocery store. Insanity.
Yes.
But right, like, so what, that's just one example, but everything's going up. The price of everything is going up. Real estate is slowing, which usually is a direct reflection. Let's talk about it like straight, like the interior design economy, like things are slowing. And I think we're put to the test. Like this is the time where there's going to be a real clear distinction between the people who are going to make it through and the people who are going to quit, leave, falter, what have you, and find a different way. And I have a feeling it has something to do with mindset more than anything else, because you could have the best big paying clients. Like we will see businesses that look like they had it all not make it, and vice versa. I mean, what are your thoughts? Like to someone who's like, yeah, Lisa, that sounds really nice. Possibility sounds great when like a year ago it was a booming economy. But right now, like I need to be practical. I need to be really looking at the money. How do we handle this current economic situation?
I'm going to give you two answers. The first one is more mindset related. And that is my favorite question my coach asks me. When I get doomsday, and PS, this happens all the time. I get all doomsday, or I get imposter syndrome, or I think, forget it, I'm quitting this all and I'm going to go work at the Gap. Like I think that thought, or Starbucks actually is the one that I always think of. I'm going to go work at Starbucks. Forget all of this. When I get to that point, this is my favorite question my coach asks me. What is the alternative? You really going to go work at Starbucks? You really think that's going to make you $1 million? You really think that's going to give you lots of work-life integration, balance, and like freedom and the impact that you want, Lisa? That's always the question she really sucker guts me with, like the sucker punch in the gut. Is that really going to give you the impact that you desire on the world? And the answer is always no. So I like that question. What is the alternative? And then from a very practical point, specifically for the interior designers who are listening, my encouragement to you is look at what is working and how can you double down your efforts on that. And here's my, not prediction, because I'm seeing this. So it's not really a prediction. It's an observation, I guess, is a better word for it. My observation is there are still going to be people who are earning enough money to invest in interior design. Like that's just still going to be a reality. We still have jobs that are higher income that exist and that will continue to exist. And so my encouragement would be look at what is working and how can you double down your efforts in it. It may require some kind of creative thinking. It may require some maybe flexibility on your part. It may require some outside the box changes to the way you've operated in the past. But to look at what is working and then to see, how can we make more of that happen?
I really like that advice, actually. And it brings me back to something that you said earlier when you were talking about like the possibilities. You need to think of possibilities. And when you said, okay, if you want to make $100,000 in a month, what would you do? It's that sort of same brainstorm of, okay, you're not saying you're going to find two people willing to pay you 50 grand, but that's one possibility. What are the other possibilities? What's really working? What can I do? How can I serve these clients that I already have? Like that's something I keep thinking about too. Is like, we've got these great clients and their project's kind of wrapped up. They already know, like, and trust us. They love us. They like to spend money with us. Can we go back to them for an additional service? Do they need additional help? Do they need us to decorate for the holidays? How can we serve them do they have future rooms? Let's really nurture that relationship. Is it something that are you really good at consultations? Like Lisa, you opened my eyes when I met you years ago. Like you had pivoted your business model to be strictly consultations and you loved it and you made a living just on consultations. Like there could be someone listening who's like, oh, I can do that. You got to book a lot of them and charge a lot of money, but you could do it.
I made a great living on $749 2-hour consultations. And it was amazing.
I remember when you told me that. I went home that night. We were at like an industry event. You were pregnant with one of your many babies. And I said to my dad, I finally met Lisa in person. And did you know she only does consultations? I was like, oh, my mind had been blown because all I ever knew was, oh, we do full service design. But no, there's so many other possibilities.
So, let me unpack this for a minute because I do think it would actually be helpful to unpack. When I went into interior design, I thought there was one way to do it. So you took on super high-end projects and that was it. That's just what I thought. So I was starting to work with clients. I was building my portfolio. And the whole time I was like, this is all just groundwork for my future really high-end clients. And then I started working with higher end clients. And I'll be honest, I attracted really wonderful people. But there were many things about this process that I was just like, I am not good at this. I'm really not good at this. I do not enjoy babysitting trades. I do not enjoy, I was like, ugh. And it was interesting. I worked with a strengths finder coach. So anybody who is not familiar, strengths finder is an assessment test that you can take where out of 34 traits, you're sort of rated, what are you best, your aptitude is sort of highest here and where is it lowest? And it was fascinating because my coach looked at my strengths and was like, basically, why this is so challenging for you is because you don't naturally have the strengths for implementation. You are really good at the beginning of the project where you're winning them over, where you are presenting the design, where you're kind of like wowing them with all this possibility and potential for their home. Then it's 80% of like so much implementation, ordering, checking, all the things. She was like, you have very few natural gifts in that area. And then you show up really well at the end when it's like, here is your brand new life. And here's all the things. And oh my gosh, the reveal, the styling, And so she was like, you've got two choices. You can continue to run your business the way you're running it. You're going to have to bring in people who can help you for this part. Or you can choose to actually completely structure your business differently, where you're just in your strengths, you're primarily in your strengths, and you only offer that first part. It took me some time to kind of get really confident in that and really own that. And this is what I mean about mindset. Like it took me some time, but eventually I got very clear on the value I provided in 2 hours. And I got really clear on how I communicated it. And I got really clear on I provide immense value in 2 hours. And just that's how. And so I just would encourage people, like, you might have a limiting belief because of, again, a thought that you're thinking that you're choosing to hang on to. I thought the only way you do interior design is super high-end projects from beginning to end. And I chose to believe that for a really long time. And then I changed my thoughts and I made a bunch of money doing it.
Yeah, I really like that. Thank you for breaking that down, because I do know that most designers, because I was of the same mindset, that most designers think that, like, I need to get to, or if they don't think that they need to do that, they feel bad about themselves because they're not doing that. Even though they may not even want to do it, they're like, but I haven't made it, or I'm not going to be successful if I don't do the multi-million-dollar homes like Kelly Wersler, or what have you, right? It's like this myth that we all need to do. And I think historically, there weren't as many designers in the 80s. Like, I picture Martin Short and Father of the Bride. Like, that was probably what they were like, right?
Oh, funny. And again, like what you say, I think about this. So I coach moms in general life coaching as well. And this is something I encounter a lot, where you go into motherhood and truthfully, most people only have the frame of reference, or mainly have the frame of reference of how their mother did things. If you lived in a more sort of connected community, maybe you had some exposure to how other moms did things in their homes. But largely speaking, the majority of people have what I would call like just a narrow sort of frame of reference. And so, of course, you repeat things from your motherhood, from your mom, And I think business is the same. It's like you might have this preconception based on what you've seen or what you've been exposed to. But then when you kind of can just be like, oh, let's like shine the light over here, or let's just like broaden, you go out in the world, you travel, you do all the things, and you just broaden your scope a little bit. It can start to become a little bit easier to embrace a different way of operating. But again, all of this begins with awareness. And the just baseline acceptance that like, oh, okay, I can choose my own path. I can do things differently, and that is safe, and that's okay.
I love that. I love that. Oh, Lisa, it's so nice to see you again and have you on the podcast. And you're always such a motivator. I know that people are going to really like this episode. I'm excited to collaborate with you. I think 2023 is going to be an exciting year. I love hanging out with you. And I'd love for you to share your wisdom in some shape or form with our audience, more than just the podcast. And you and I are talking about some ways that we can do that. So I'm really excited, and hopefully we can share something. But anything last nugget of wisdom before we sign off today that you feel would be useful for my audience? No pressure. I never prep anyone for this question, even though I ask it with every episode. Hello, Rebecca. Sheesh. I should get better at that. This was an impromptu call, I have to say. Lisa did not, I had no intention. I'm recording in my office. I'm sure that the sound is kicking in. My team's having a meeting. They're like, why can't Rebecca stop talking? She's so loud. Like, this was not a planned podcast. I just love that you were here and willing to chat about mindset, because right now, and then I'll let you speak, but like right now, I know a lot of designers are feeling stressed. They're feeling anxious. They're feeling like or maybe they're still busy, but they're waiting for the other shoe to drop. There's this doom and gloom looming over us. And it's, even though things are fine right now inside your business or with your clients, there's this fear that, well, it can't stay that way because everyone's saying we're headed to a recession, a depression, a whatever it's going to be. And so I think that having these conversations right now is so, so, so important. So many people have said to me who've been through other slower economic times, they say this is where, and I said this before, but this is where you're really going to see, I don't know, there's an expression, of course, I can't think of it, but there's these expressions that talk about how you're going to weed out the people who can see those opportunities and continue to move forward, and the people who become crippled, I would imagine, with fear.
Yeah, I would say that there's so many things I could say as final parting words, but it really is that you have a choice in how you think, and that thoughts about the economy, thoughts about your business are all optional. I know that can sound like, no, that's not true. It's a fact that we are. But see, look, is it really a fact we're moving into a recession? Is it a fact? Like, is it a fact? Like, yes, right now there are indicators. There are certain things that some people would say, this is where we're moving. And again, am I trying to say be naive and don't prepare? Like, I've got 9 kids. I got to be able to feed them. I have to look at my bank account and be like, will I have enough for the next month? So again, this is not to be naive at all. Don't misunderstand. But how you think about the future and how you behave in the present, you have power. You are not powerless to how you react to any situation in your life. And then really quickly, that you are more powerful than you think you are. This is something I could cry talking about this. I just had a miscarriage. We've been through a lot of just uncertainty and stress in my life, just lots of different factors. There are certain realities with 9 kids that have just reality. There's reality. I've got multiple sick kids sometimes, there's just realities that come with that. I'm married to an amazing man who has clinical anxiety. So there's a lot of things that have happened to me personally, and I know are happening to people in your audience. But when you can go to that place of inner resilience, I have choice, I have power, I am worthy, the hope that can produce is very powerful and very motivating. And I argue hope never disappoints. It never fails.
I love that. Thank you for sharing your story. I think it's really inspirational for others to hear that it's not like you're walking through life with rainbow colored glasses and everything's perky and happy and good and nothing ever goes wrong. That's not the reality. And I think you are such living proof of resilience. Truly, Lisa, I am inspired by you every day. So thank you for sharing and showing up and just being the person that you are. Honestly, I am inspired by you every day. Can you tell everybody where they can find and follow you?
Yes, on Instagram at Lisa Canning is probably the best party place. Join the party of 9 kids and my antics as a business and mindset coach, and look forward, I think, to some fun collaborations over here. I'm excited for what's to come in 2023 and beyond.
And I will just say, for those who don't already follow Lisa, she's super candid. And this is one of the things that drew me to you from the very beginning. You don't sugarcoat it. You're super honest. You open up. You share what you're going through. You share the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it's not a downer. It's actually very relatable and very inspirational. So if you are looking for someone to follow on the gram who's actually real, then follow Lisa. All right. Thanks, lady. We'll see you soon. Well, isn't Lisa just wonderful? She just exudes energy, optimism, and sunshine. I can't even tell you, if you ever get to see this video, if it ever ends up on our YouTube, then I think you'll see what I'm talking about. She's just such a colorful, positive person, and really helps us to reframe our perspective. I know I left this conversation feeling definitely more empowered and excited to look for those possibilities, look for those opportunities. I think sometimes, we tend to play small, and especially in a time when we feel nervous about the outcome, we pull back. We get nervous. Let's be practical. Let's not invest in the thing. Let's not spend any extra money on things that we don't really need. And yes, austerity has its place, but I think when your mind is doing that and your mind is closing itself off to opportunities, is not stepping forth into that life that you can have if you maybe take a little bit of a risk, or maybe you just, instead of looking at the negative, you look at the positive. I think playing big doesn't mean throwing all caution to the wind, but it certainly means looking for opportunities. I love how Lisa talked about that. And just taking stock of your mindset. What is your brain telling you? What stories are in your head that maybe aren't actually based in reality? If you guys really liked this episode with Lisa, you are definitely going to want to hear her in person. We have just announced that Lisa will be joining us for our designer winter retreat in February at the JW Marriott as one of our key speakers. She is going to help you not only speak at you, work with you to bring forth that positive, that money positive mindset that is going to help you bring in success in your design business. So much of our success is in the mind, and I know you know it. We all know it. We catch ourselves probably on the daily. I certainly do. I have days where I'm like, why is my brain spiraling out of control? Like, I need to just shake my head or something and get the bad thoughts out. If you get to see Lisa in person, well, you will. If you come to the retreat, you'll know exactly what I mean about her energy. It is very contagious. It is very inspiring. You will be ready to take on every single dream after being in her presence. So I hope you guys come and join us, RebeccaHay.com/retreat. That's where you can find all the information on our 3-day sort of deep dive conference. It's like a conference in the setting of a retreat, because it's like this luxurious setting, but we're actually there to do the work, focus on your business and how you can scale it right now in this economy to the multiple 6 and 7 figures that you know you can get there, get there. I'm really excited about having her on board for the retreat. She is such a shining star. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Give Lisa a follow, of course, on her Instagram, and feel free to let me know what you thought of this episode. We can certainly do more woo-woo mindset like this. Okay, see you soon.